Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. Escape from the corporate rat race to empowered franchise ownership. Are you ready to take control of your destiny, follow your dreams, and live life on your own terms? Join our hosts, Dave and Pete, for insights on how to break free from the corporate grind, ditch the 9-to-5, and step into empowered franchise ownership.
Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. My name is Pete Giffel, and I'm with my podcast partner, Dave Greenberg. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Pete. What a beautiful day it is today to be with you.
Oh, I am pumped up as usual. I thought today we're always solving problems. We work with executives and individuals that are just kind of fed up with the corporate world, right? And we know that they all have targets on their back. There's no loyalty anymore. We see all the layoffs. We see all the dissatisfaction, right? It's really tough out there. And so I thought the answer we could kind of go for today, or the question we could answer, is why do senior level executives need a plan B? What do you think?
Let me stick with the flower. Wake up and smell the roses. Because, if you think because you're loyal, they're loyal, well, you got another thing coming to you. We've seen it time and time again. 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 35 years, however many years you have in the corporation, however loyal you think you are, whatever you think your stock option is planned, those things just go away when people have to make hard decisions. We've seen it around it. We've seen it happen to us. So wake up and smell the roses, because too often in the past 90, 120 days, I've been talking to candidates that they let it happen to them. You know that whole thing, like move your cheese before someone else does? Move your cheese before someone else does?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're focused on their runway and how do I get something done in a certain time frame. I'm like, shit, what was your plan B, Pete? They didn't have one.
Yeah, right. And you got to have a plan B. I was talking to a candidate yesterday, right? And he goes, Pete, my company, it's toxic. It's really a tough place to be in. He goes, but we get paid every other week, right? And he goes, so we get paid on Friday, and then every Tuesday, they basically send out or get rid of people. So every Tuesday, they wake up and go, am I going to be the one displaced today, right? So what a terrible, rotten environment. So let's talk about this. So first of all, why do we need a plan B? Well, bottom line is that job security for executives is disappearing.
Absolutely. It's like fire yourself and hire yourself, right, Pete?
Right. And I mean, these organizations, they're flattening out. You saw this with lots of corporations. They're taking layers of management out. They're basically removing and basically automating things so that they don't need as many executives. Think about corporations like IBM or Meta, that they're publicly announced they're cutting out layers of management or white collar executive roles.
There was a Wall Street, the title correctly was something about everybody's replaceable. And, people are speaking about headcount equivalents too, as in a different way. Because, we'll talk about it in a bit, but AI is here, it's not going away. So either the organizations are flattening or productivity is improving with the eye of not having you in that seat.
Yeah, well, and I was just talking to a guy that's with the company for 32 years, and his number is coming, right? He's been there a long time. They have a history of pushing people out. They've been around a long time. But we were talking about this, is that the day he leaves, 2 weeks later, his legacy of being there for 32 years, nobody will remember him, right? I mean, it's just, bottom line is they move on. They put a new person in that chair. Bottom line is that you're replaceable. Everybody's replaceable. And when we talk about replacing people, certainly AI is the second, right? It's going to be very disruptive to executive roles, right? AI is handling strategic planning, performance analysis, even hiring, right? So this idea is they just need less people, less executives with this great tool, AI.
When I first started talking to people about AI and how it's going to disrupt or add, everyone was like, oh, it's going to make me more productive. You and I, Pete, we use it in our jobs every day, our businesses every day. And it certainly can help your productivity. It certainly can help you think outside the box, because it will make you think about things that, frankly, you haven't thought about before. And so productivity was kind of what AI was going to bring. But now AI is bringing replacement. It's doing functions.
Yeah, right. If you have a marketing department with 3 people that are creating content, they're working on stuff, right? You really only need 1, maybe 1.5 people, right? Because you're basically leveraging those tools. So you got to have somebody that's feeding the prompts and proofing it. But at the end of the day, you don't need as many people with that tool. It's going to be very interesting to see. The third one, I know this is one of your favorites, is that unfortunately in today's world, the corporate world, there's ageism. Right? Bottom line is as we get older, there is a target on your back.
Absolutely. And as you know, thank you, Pete, ageism, it happened to me, it happened to everyone, and it's happening. I can see it in the eyes of my candidates when I talk to them about it. Either you got to recognize that it exists in corporate America because, your costs more. You think you have a skill set, experiences, leadership capabilities, but frankly, younger, less expensive people that may be more adaptable to new technologies and the culture that brings may be a better fit. And so that's one way to think about ageism in corporate America. But I have to say, don't think ageism goes away once you're out on the street and you're banging on the door to get another W-2 job. Because it
is real. I mean, I was just talking to a guy, his company merged with another company, right? So they had redundancy, right? A nice way of saying we're going to let somebody go. So basically they took the person that was in the same role with the other company and put him in because they were 15 years younger and making $70,000 less, right? Clearly he was more experienced, all that kind of stuff, would have been the better person, but ageism got him. And there's nothing really that you can do. Right. One of the things that I always preach is the fourth one, right, is this idea that there's no more loyalty. You both started with Ford, and it was a day where you'd start with a company, and you expected to spend your career there, right? And what we've learned is that things get tough. Loyalty is gone away. That whole thing, I'm going to give you my best years, you're going to reward me, I'm going to reward you, that is gone.
Right. And along with that corporate loyalty, some of the trap that I fell into, that loyalty led me blindly to be single-threaded. Yeah. And being single-threaded without a plan B or without a secondary revenue stream, heck, everyone owns an income property today. Back then, you took a half a second away from your job, you weren't loyal. The whole conversation about having a plan B that we've started with is continuing to roll through all the points that you're making, Pete. And as we go through the rest of them, if you're listening, just don't wait, because you're going to have a runway, and eventually if your cash is going to run out, you're going to need to do something. So as we go through this, think about what the best time is to do something.
Yeah, it's before the storm, right?
Right.
Or the old analogy, right? The time to fix your roof is before it starts raining, right?
Right.
Because you can't fix it during raining. If you get laid off, you're flat-footed, right? And so you're already kind of in the hole. So you may end up there, but if you can prepare yourself, having plan B. And bottom line is that when we're senior level executive and we get pushed out, right? And you've heard me say 50% of 50-plus-year-old corporate executives get pushed out before they're ready, right? And the idea that of the 50% that get pushed out, only 10% of them make more or the same, right? Because the fifth reason is really when you're going back into the workforce, you get pushed out. Bottom line is it's really tough to get back to that same level. We use the term kind of underemployed, right? We really like you, but we can't pay you that $300,000 a year. Now basically we got something for you, but it's 180 or 220,000, right? It's overqualified or underpaid.
Right. It's I had a candidate and this particular candidate's been wonderful through the process, but her biggest challenge has been looking for the W-2 gig. And as we evolved through the investigation process, obviously creating her own wealth and carving her own future and her own path has become more and more appealing. But she came back the other day and said, what if I went underemployed? Like, Pete, it's an evolution out there. You're going to bang your head against ageism, and then you're going to think about becoming underemployed, which is a fine thing to do.
Right.
You just have to be mentally prepared for it.
Right. And the deal is that, okay, if you're okay for working as hard, or if not harder, for less money, great, right? That doesn't sound really appealing to me.
Right.
I don't really like that idea. But if it's a means to, hey, listen, I'm taking this underemployment job so that I can start a business on the side, I can be doing other things, right? Well, then that's a path going forward. But if you're looking at just resetting your earning level to something lower, that doesn't seem too excitable to me, or undesirable, would be a better way to say it. And I think one of the other reasons why we need to have a plan B is that we have this economic uncertainty that is making executives vulnerable, right? Whether it's inflation, the global instability, the tech disruption. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening right now with these companies, and that makes these executives vulnerable.
Well, the last job I would want right now is to be a CFO, right? How many iterations of the business plan are you going to roll? Because it will take you 3 iterations, because you're not going to realize you can't get pricing anymore.
Yeah.
And when you can't get pricing anymore, what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to pull variable costs. You always make product sacrifices or whatever it's going to be. You don't invest in technology. So there's going to be pushback on reducing variable costs, because that goes through the supply chain, and it's always tough. It's a long lead item. So people are going to start leaning on the fixed costs. And so what is that? Salaries. And that's what's going to pop out.
And it's the easier way. In uncertainty, they've got to take that cost out until they can figure out or stabilize their pricing model. Absolutely.
Right.
I think this idea, and we talked about it earlier, is that the reason we have to have a plan B is that we can be one-sided or basically set where we just have over-reliant on that job, where all our income is coming from there. And we get to the point where bottom line is that we are not diversified. And that gives us vulnerability, both from our income and our career and stuff like that. So, being over reliant on that job, that's a huge thing of why we need to have a plan B.
Pete, my salary was there. My aspirations was there with Ford, and I loved it. My 401k was there. My pension was there. My stock grants, my stock options were all there. It was all in that big blue basket. And, never again. Own 7 businesses today. Who knows? Maybe we'll sell some, maybe we'll keep some, but not being single-threaded again is so important, especially as you think about plan B, which is what we're talking today. Because if you don't have one, you're not waking up smelling the roses every morning. And along with that is this whole idea of, okay, I'm going to keep at it, but I'm going to be burned out. I mean, I think you and I talk, if I had stayed with Ford, I'd be dead by now.
Yeah.
And we all sacrificed our health in one way or the fashion. There were the few that really maintained it, but majority, you just put everything in. You travel, you eat on the road, you work 60 hours a week, you get sucked into those cultures, and it's just physically and mentally and sometimes spiritually draining. So corporate burnout can be real, as opposed to, creating your own wealth and working for yourself and becoming empowered, which is a way different feeling.
Yeah, right. And it's just, you are basically you're still working hard, right? Building a business takes hard work, but it's on your terms, right? So if I need time off just to recharge, I can do that. Doesn't mean I'm not working hard. It's on mine, and I don't have to deal with all the cultural toxins that are out there, the senseless meetings, the politics, all that kind of stuff. You can focus on what drives things. So I think as a business owner, it's refreshing, right? I don't get burned out. I enjoy helping people. All my energy goes to good, positive things. And so that's the big one why you have to have a plan B, is because you don't want to be that burned out person where you're just miserable. I was talking to a guy today. He's 55 years old. He just got a new job, and he's got to travel 5 days a week, right? I mean, it's just, and I know what that is. That just sucks your soul, because when you're on the road 5 days a week, that you're not living life, right? You're not going to dinner with your spouse or your significant other. You're not doing the things that you want to do. It's tough. What about this idea the idea of waiting too long? Like we wait and we wait because we think we're going to get that next promotion, or we think we're going to this corporation, right? And we just wait out the corporate too long, right? We're hopeful that we're going to get to that next level. It's going to be awesome, right? That's a big deal.
It's absolutely, because time is one thing we don't get back, Pete, and time is money. And when you think of the W-2 world, we often talk about exchanging time for money. All right. So if you keep on waiting, the opportunity of cost for you is building wealth for someone else or building wealth for yourself, in my terms. And I was with a candidate yesterday, and he was saying, I'm get 40% of my compensation in bonus. It comes in August, and I got to wait to see what that looks like. Okay. Well, what about not worrying about that month of August and creating your bonus every day or every week or every month because you own the business and get to keep 100% of the profits?
Yeah, put something in place where you've got that plan B so that if they screw you over, right, basically in August with your bonus, at least you're not caught flat-footed, right? So this idea is that always hoping and we got to waiting for something. There's never a better time than now to start putting together your plan B. It's just crazy.
Right.
What about this idea that you are in control? I use the term in my book, control your destiny, live life in your own terms, right? So this idea of being an entrepreneur and ownership equals control, right? You're in control. When you work for a company, you're not in control of your destiny. You're not living life on your terms. I mean, we live that with Ford.
Whether you're talking about the Sunday night scaries or preparing for the board review or getting ready to go meet with customers or doing your performance reviews, all that comes on a plan and a schedule and all these things that you have to deliver for someone else. You wake up every day thinking about that, but now we wake up every day thinking about what we're going to do. Obviously, we have businesses to run. We need to keep the engines running. You need to do the things, but if you got empowered people and you're putting your resources right, it's a total different feeling when you have total ownership and control.
Yeah, I've used the term like I pitch myself every day. I get up, but I don't have a boss I got to jack around with. I don't have to sit through senseless meetings. I don't have artificial objectives. Somebody came up with it because they, right. I don't have to sit through any kind of politics or any kind of that stuff. I can just focus all my time and energy into doing good, building my business, helping others. And I find that to be very refreshing. It's just an awesome feeling when you are in control. But I think as we talk about this idea of having a plan B, and we've, I think, laid out really 10 great reasons why you have to have a plan B. But it's important for our listeners to understand that having a plan B doesn't mean you have to leave the corporate world today, right? You and I work with executives all the time that are looking at keeping their corporate job for a period of time as they start the franchise. We use the term executive model semi-absentee. So you have to put a manager in place. You have to mind that business 15 to 20 hours a week, right? It takes work to get it off the ground. But this idea is you can keep your corporate income, keep your benefits while you're building plan B. And plan B doesn't necessarily have to be a franchise. It could be a real estate play. It could be a consulting business, whatever it may be. Bottom line is you have to have right now put together a plan B.
Absolutely. And you're right, Pete. You can run parallel paths, but you got to pick the right franchisor because not everyone wants that. And it's that executive model, manage the manager approach. You can have that path that, you're looking at a short-term parallel, but actually transitioning. And there's that off-ramp when you maybe get your second location or get your revenue service-based facility business up to a certain point where you feel comfortable covering your expenses with the free cash flows you're throwing off. Or, if you have the capability and you've prepared, you can just jump off and go cold turkey. Or I have several re-entering out of retirement with the balance sheet to go to work to stay healthy, just keep their cognitive functions going rather than sitting around and waiting for dementia to show up.
Yeah, right, man. You got to have purpose in life. You got to be engaged. You got to be moving. Otherwise, age catches up to you, right? I'm not doing that. I will always be engaged in doing something. And as we talk about this idea of having a plan B, right? The idea is that you and I, the Empower Franchisee, your website, my Hire Yourself, we help executives all the time take a look at franchising as a plan B. Right? And it can be immediate, like you can jump into it, or you can set it up so that it's on the side. It doesn't make any difference. What I encourage listeners to do is take the time to reach out to you at the Empowered Franchisee or to me at Hire Yourself and just set up a time to talk. And we can talk through, learn a little bit about your situation and why we can help you put a plan B together.
Pete, whether they call you or call me, it's all going to work the same, but it's 15 minutes of your time. 15 minutes on our calendar and we'll figure out if it makes sense to work together and start thinking about that plan B. So book some time with us. We'd love to help you think about that transition.
And we always encourage you to subscribe and give us comments. Let us know how we're doing. We're here to help you. With that, Dave, thanks very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Escape and Empower podcast. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider franchise ownership as a path to living life on your own terms. Start your journey towards financial freedom and flexibility. Connect with Dave at empoweredfranchisee.com or Pete at hireyourself.com. Until next time.